The Books of Sorrow, Verse 3, Entry 0. Hive. Let us speak of the terrible beauty of becoming ourselves. In the beginning, we rode hollow moons from star to star. Oryx said, become as numerous and fertile as seeds in rich flesh, and thus we did become numerous. Shavuarath said, become as hungry and defiant as tumors in rich flesh, and thus we became cancerous. Savathun said, drink of the poisons of the worm, so that you might feed on death. And we did feed. This was preparation for our crusade. Ayat, we were thus becoming. A mother wizard gets fertility from a mate or from herself. From the wizard the spawn, from the spawn our thrall, from the survivors our acolytes who contend. If they contend well, their worm is fed, and from the well-fed worm come knights and wizards and princes. This is us, and our purpose is liberation. Our great task is the worship and admiration of freedom. Our great hunger is to pursue and eat that which is not free, and to liberate it with devouring. Ayat, this is us. We, the Hive. Entry 1. An Incision. Saith Oryx, my siblings, our children are scattered across many moons, and we live in the cold dark between suns. What will we eat? How will we speak? Savathun said, Oryx, my brother and king, I have studied the wounds cut by the worm, our god. Also, I have studied the manner of your death and return. These two things are the same, for they are predicated on death and the passage through cut spaces. Let us practice the sword logic until we are sharp. We may then cut our own wounds and step through. But Shavuarath said, Sister, I am already sharp. Look, my sword cuts into another space. And she cut her way between moons through green fire and joyous screams. 3 kingdoms grew swollen in the sword space. They were the gaze and glory of Oryx, the cunning and knowledge of Savathun, the triumph and brawn of Shavuarath. These kingdoms were created from the minds and worms of our lords. They were coterminous with all spaces consecrated by our hive. Through these spaces passed speech and food, and all the moons were bound close. Saith Oryx, this is where I went when I died. Let us establish our thrones here. For I am Oryx the first navigator, and I shall chart death. And my throne shall be carved of osmium. Entry 2. The High War. Now in this time of diaspora there was a war between Oryx and Savathun and Shavuarath. Brother Oryx, said Savathun, do not forgive my betrayal. Instead, take vengeance upon me for what I did at the dry moon. And Oryx made war on her in worship of the deep. Between them stood Shavuarath, saying, Stop, or I will kill you. War is mine, and I am strongest. This was how they worshipped. For 20,000 years, they fought across the moons, and they fought across the abyssal plains and lightning palaces of each other's sword spaces. And they killed each other again and again, so that they could practice death. Such was their love. At last the many moons came to many worlds, and it was time to go to war on life. Oryx said, "I shall establish a court, and whoever comes into this court may challenge me. My court will be the High War. It will be a killing ground and a school of the sword logic we have learned from our gods." Savathun thought this was a great idea. She made a court called the High Coven. Shivu-Arath said, "The world is my court, wherever there is war." Entry 3. Fire without fuel. I killed my sister today. She came to this star to oversee the extermination of all life here. The Qugu are a strong power, and their fleets protect 4 nearby stars. As herd animals, they are loyal and stubborn, but they do show grace. For millions of years of evolution, the Qugu have been infected by a virus so insidious that it wrote itself into their genome. The virus compels them to offer their limbs for amputation by enormous sessile jaw beasts. They venerate these beasts and treat them as gods. The virus converts Qugu cells into eggs, from which strange, crawling things pupate to live within the jaw beast gut. In turn, the jaw beast extrudes sweet nectar for the Qugu to drink, and they have brilliant visions. Savathun and her broods have liberated the Qugu from jaw beasts, and indeed from existence. But as they chased the Qugu arc ships, I stopped in to vaporize my sister's warship and a few of her underlings. I want to dwell on the ruins a while and punish Savathun for failing to guard her flank. They are like us, these Qugu, bound in symbiosis. I feel joy and sorrow. I feel them as titanic things because I am larger than my body. My mind is now a cosmos of its own. I know more joy and more anguish than the entire Qugu race could ever experience. Sorrow because we have killed so much. 18 species this century alone, and joy for the same reason. Joy that we have put down these blights, scoured them away, and left the universe clean, ready to move towards its final shape. We are a wind of progress, ripping parasites from the material world. For if they were not parasites, we would be unable to kill them, and they would still exist. And what is that final shape? It is a fire without fuel, burning forever, killing death, asking a question that is its own answer entirely itself. That is what we must become. My worm grows fat and hungry. I feed it with whole worlds. My astronomers tell me they can sense the deep itself, and that we are conquering our way towards it. I think joy and sorrow will be the same thing soon, like love and death. Entry 4. The Scream. No! Savathun, Shivu-Arath, my siblings, we are betrayed. We will never live eternal. Our might shatters entire species. We inhale the smoke of their burning. This is our compact with the worm, our god. The worm makes us mighty, But as we wield this might, our worm's hunger expands. If we fail to feed it, it will devour us from within. We have exterminated 306 worlds, and now I am certain my worm's hunger grows faster than the might I draw from it. We are bound by our covenant to obey our nature. Eternal search, eternal cunning, eternal conquest. But as we do this, my siblings, we feed our worms. And the more we feed them, the hungrier they grow, faster and faster. Soon, my siblings, we will be so mighty, and our worms so hungry, that not with all our might could we possibly feed them, and we will be devoured. What can we do? Entry 5. Dictata ir Dakaua.
Attention! Perimeter security units attend. Stand by to assimilate new imperatives. Gland 60 proof assimilation liquor, or face immediate non-compliance taxation. The Dakaua Ministry of War is now online and true. In radial year 989, Groove 3, our clients in the Dakaua nest salvaged an interstellar spacecraft. Hull isotopes date the craft's construction 24,000 years ago, around the same time the fundament system dropped out of contact with our amiable Ecumene. Mercenary explorers discovered an organism frozen in stasis deep within the hull. She claims to be Taos, member of a proto-Hive species. During debriefing, she provided records of the fall of Ammonite civilization and vital intelligence about the motives, biology, and leadership of the Hive. Over the past century, perimeter security units of the Ecumene Status Army have failed to halt Hive incursions on 17 separate worlds. All species in the Ecumene face extinction. Decapitate, defer, promote Dakaua's strategic dicta for victory against the Hive. Identify supreme Hive leadership organisms Arash, Sathona, and She-Ro. Target these entities with maximum theater overkill. Cadiometric release authorized. Prosecute targets whenever they manifest. Hive cohesion will crumble. Total victory over the Hive will be achieved by clean sweep genocide.
Entry 6. Star by star by star. Beneath a green fire sky, in the throne world of King Oryx, our lords embrace. We the Hive watch as Savathun puts her arm around Xivu Arath, and Xivu Arath clasps forearms with Oryx, and Oryx takes Savathun by the shoulder. They are huge, and they burn with furious power. But this embrace is weakness, and we despise it. Never before have we despised our lords. Have they failed us? We, the Hive, have been driven back world by world. I am at my end, Savathun says. I plot and plan, but I cannot gather enough bloodshed to feed my worm. And the harder I try, the hungrier it becomes. I slaughter and kill, Xivu Arath says, but the harder I fight, the more my worm demands. I too am at my end. The Ecumene War Angels have killed me so many times, Oryx says, that I dare not go out into the universe lest I need my might to protect myself. My worm chews at my soul in hunger. Is this the end of our crusade? Are we, the Hive, unworthy to exist? Shivu Arath puts down her great head. We should retire and gather our strength. Savathun closes her eyes in puzzled defeat. We should beg the worm our god to tell us what to do. But King Oryx, who knows best the beauty of the final shape, roars at them. Have you learned nothing? Would you deny our purpose? Whatever we do by killing, an act of war and might. That is the final arbiter we serve, that violent arbiter, and if we turn away from it, we deserve to be eaten. No! We must obey our natures. We must be long-sighted and cunning and strong. We must take this gift the worm our god has given us, this challenge, and find a way to keep existing. How will we feed our worms? Shivu Arath asks. I know, says cunning Savathun. I know a way. But it won't work unless we are killing the Ecumene by the billions. How can we beat them? If we cannot beat their strengths, says Shivu Arath, we must infect their weaknesses. But they are lords of matter and physical law. I know a way, King Oryx says, but it will require great power. More power than any one of us can claim. Then kill me, says Shivu Arath, and use that killing logic, the power you prove by killing something as mighty as me. So King Oryx took up his blade and beheaded Shivu Arath. And strangle me, says Savathun, holding a blade behind her back. Use that killing logic, the cunning you prove by killing something as smart as me. But King Oryx turned with the speed and might of Shivu Arath and beheaded Savathun before she could move. King Oryx was the first navigator, with the map of death. These were true deaths, for they happened in the sword world. Then he went to the worm named Akka. Entry 7. Eat the Sky.
Emergency imperative. All militarized units attend. Glen 120 proof fight or flight encoded or face certain catastrophic defeat. The Ecumene Crisis Council is now online and true. Attention! As of Radial 990, Groove 0, the Hive has launched a staggering counterattack across the Spinward frontier. Perimeter, militia, and shop fleets report total casualties. We anticipate total Ecumene disintegration, extinction, within 220 years. The Hive entity Oryx Arash is deploying a paracausal ontopathogenic weapon that infects and subverts Ecumene forces. The weapon operates on individual targets. Targets are abducted and returned as compliant Hive slaves with inexplicable and physically illegal abilities. All Ecumene clients should immediately devote all economic and cognitive resources to a countermeasure. Fight hard. We stop the Hive here, or see our galaxy devoured.
Entry 8. King of Shapes. This is the coronation of Oryx, the Taken King. It happened thus. In the cold abyss of the Sword World, King Arash walked under a cloak of green fire. He walked through the sky, and the sky shuddered and froze beneath his feet. He walked until he found Akka, the worm of secrets, who was denying a truth until it became a lie. Akka, my god, worm of secrets, I am Oryx, sole king of the Hive. I have come to receive a secret. I want the secret power of the deep, which you hold. I give no secrets, said Akka, whose voice was code. No, said Oryx, you give nothing. Giving is for the sky. You worship the deep, which asks that we take what we need. Akka said nothing, because if it denied this truth, the truth might become false. But you gave us your larvae, the worm, said Oryx, and that is why the worm devours us now, because it was given, not taken. So I must take what I need from you, although you are my god. Said Akka, you have not the strength. But this was a lie. Oryx had killed Savathun, his sibling, and Xivu Arath, his sibling, and he had the sword logic of killing them. Oryx, the first navigator, set upon his god with his sword and his words, and cut Akka to pieces, and took from those pieces the secrets of calling upon the deep. He wrote this secret on a set of tablets, which he called the Tablets of Ruin, and he wore them about his waist. Then Oryx said, now I may speak to the deep, the beautiful final shape. I will be king of shapes. I will learn all the secrets of our destiny. His speech to the deep is not recorded here, but it is known that he returned, and he said, now I am Oryx, the taken king, and I have the power to take life and make it my own. Then he went out into the universe and fought the Ecumene with his tablets, and the worm, his god, was pleased. Entry 9. Carved in Ruin. Oryx made war on the Ecumene for 100 years. At the end of those 100 years, he killed the Ecumene Council on the fractal wreath, and from their blood rose Xivu Arath, saying, I am war, and you have conjured me back with war. Oryx was glad, for he loved Xivu Arath. The Ecumene wailed in grief. Then Oryx and Xivu Arath made war on the Ecumene for 40 years. At the end of those 40 years, Oryx said to the Dakaua nest, listen, I am jealous of my sibling Xivu Arath. Help me kill her. And in desperation, they agreed. But he drove the Dakaua nest into a trap, and they were made extinct. From their ashes rose cunning Savathun, saying, I am trickery, and you have conjured me back with trickery. Oryx was glad, for he loved Savathun. The Ecumene fled into the void. Then they made war on the Ecumene for 1,000 years, and exterminated them so wholly that nowhere except in this book are they remembered. This book and the mind of Taux, who was not found. And Savathun said, King Oryx, how will we feed our worms? Did you use my plan? Oryx told the Hive, I am the taken king, and here is my law. You thrall, each of you will claw and scream, and kill what you can. Take enough killing to feed your worm, and a little more to grow. Tithe the rest to the acolyte who commands you. You acolytes, lead your thrall in battle. Take enough killing to feed your worm, and a little more to grow, but take the tithe of the thrall you lead. Then tithe the remainder to the knight or wizard who commands you. Thus, you pay tribute. You knights and wizards, lead your followers in battle. Take enough devastation to feed your worm, and a little more to grow, but take the tithe of your followers. Then take another portion, as much as you dare, and use it for your own purposes. But if it is too much, your peers will kill you and take it. Then tithe the remainder to the ascendant you serve. An ascendant will be those among the hive who gather enough tribute to enter the netherworld. They will pay a tithe to those above them. And thus the tribute will flow up the chain, so that Savathun and Shiva Arath and myself will be fed by a great river of tribute, and we will use that excess to feed our gods, and to study the deep. Thus all worms will be fed, as long as we continue our crusade. This is my law. I carve it thus, in ruin. Ayat.